Good afternoon, guys. Welcome back. If you haven't already, as usual, comment your presence on the video post. Alright, so the plan for today is to create a new Excel file or a new Google Sheet. We're finished with the class schedule. We're going to go on and do something different today. As usual, every day there's going to be an assignment accompanied with the video that I post. Please remember to keep track of those. No day will I not post any content. I'll try and be posting every day. This has been the first week, so I hope everybody has gotten used to the online environment and gotten used to the way how I'm running the online classes so far. So let's just go ahead. Got 5 people here being present. Currently 3 people watching. I'm sure more people will join us in a little while. So if for the guys who are watching right now, if you can, if the ones who are late ask questions, just do me a favor and answer their questions if they had missed me already answering those questions before. So today is day 4, Friday, and we're gonna cover data validation, and we're gonna create a list on one spreadsheet, and we're gonna use this list on this spreadsheet. For today we're gonna basically cover mostly data validation. That's gonna be the newest thing overall. So let's go ahead, open up our Excel file. I'm gonna open up Sheets as well. So go ahead, open a blank workbook. And what we're gonna do is data validation, and data validation covers a lot of things, but the main thing I want you to get from it is that data validation is when you set certain rules for the user to follow, and you ensure that the user doesn't go ahead and input the wrong data, even if by mistake. So, for example, if you are working on an Excel file, and let's say you're in a company and this is a very large company, so there's a lot of you working in the same department. There's gonna be cases where, depending on the work, you must share your file with another co-worker and they might have to put in information as well. But if you send your file to a co-worker and they go and add wrong information and send you back the file tomorrow or on the next day, then that's like you waste a whole day, and then when you watch or check the file, you notice they put in the wrong information, and you've wasted a whole day because all the information wasn't the correct information to begin with. So there are certain steps or certain safeguards that you can do called data validation, so that your users or the people who will be using the Excel file don't end up writing in the wrong information, especially if it's something that's time consuming. So that's what data validation is in some aspect. Sure, you could hand in the assignment tomorrow, Julian. There's no due date. I'll be checking all assignments right before the Easter vacations, so you have until basically next week, I'll say Sunday, to finish up all the assignments if you haven't done them already. A lot of the assignments aren't really hard. It's really just 10 minutes of work, and once you know what you need to do, it's really just 10 minutes, 15 minutes max. If you're using Google Sheets, and if you're using it on cell phone especially, I know it's kind of difficult, especially with this small UI and all the small the size of the phone. It hides a lot of the features. So if you really can't get it done, especially if you're using a cell phone, I want you to try at the very least write down all the assignments we've done so far. Write it down inside your exercise book, or on a typing sheet or folder sheet, something that you'll have it at all times. And then I want you to go ahead and point arrows to your table and write out the instructions or what we did. For example, if I had did this and I asked you guys to set the column width to 25 on the last assignment, then go ahead and draw out or write out our schedule that we did last class, and then just put notes. Draw a little line here that says, alright, width is at 25, rows are at 25, and basically what you're doing is you're really doing the assignment. It's just that you're writing it down and you're writing out the instructions like on a notebook or on a notepad, because you can't get it to work on a cell phone for the time being. And I want you to do that because then you have the work with you at all times. And then when we get back to the lab, hopefully after the Easter break, you could just go online or go on the computer, just jump into Excel, and you just followed your own instructions that you wrote down, and basically you're back and you catch back with all the rest of the people who have Excel. So I really want you guys to try and do something, right? Don't waste your time. Just watch the video. If you don't have Excel working, if you're using Google Sheets on a cell phone, write out the assignment on a notebook and write down the notes, please. And I hope you guys are writing notes during these video presentations, because I will be asking you guys, right, on assessments when we get back to school. We'll review it, yes, real quick, but I will be asking you guys, like, what does cell wrap text do? If you apply on a cell, what does it do? I hope you guys can explain it. I hope you guys understand it, right? So jumping back again into today's lesson, we're going to go ahead, set the widths for the columns to be 25, set the heights all the way to row 10 to be 25 as well. We're going to do an example for data validation, but the example is not part of the assignment for today. The assignment for today is to write out the 3 meals that we eat on a daily basis, and we're gonna list it with about maybe 8 items or 7 items of food that we eat. So I'm gonna remind you guys exactly what the assignment will be, but for now just follow along. I'm gonna rename this first sheet and call it the food list, and I'm gonna add another sheet and I'm gonna call this our food schedule, right? I'm not sure what you mean by only 2 homework, Augusto. This is our 4th day, so technically it should be 3 if you include today's one, because Monday we didn't really do much in terms of work. I just had you guys get introduced, right? So if you count day 2 and day 3, yeah, so only 2 homework so far. Today's one will be 3. So we go back to the food list and we go ahead and input our 3 meals that we usually eat on a day. I want you to click and highlight all of these cells here from A1 all the way to C10, and we're gonna center align all of them. So let's just go ahead and put food real quick. Your assignment is going to be to put in these foods, put in the format for the widths of the columns and the rows. What else is cake, got tacos, got breakfast, burritos, What else? You got sandwich. And let's stop at cereal. Alright. So what you're gonna do is to put in different foods. Let me see. Alright, chicken. See you guys eating fried rice. What else do you guys eat? Burgers. See you guys eating pizza for lunch. What else? Rice and beans. What else? Oh, yeah, I already have pizza. Wings and chicken fingers, right? These are just examples. And just for the sake of time, I'm gonna copy this and put it here for dinner as well, because all of these are pretty much available for dinner as well, for the most part. So this is what you're supposed to do for your assignment. It's not difficult. Make sure you go ahead and bold the first row, because those are our table headers, and we want it to look different from the food items found here. So this is the assignment itself. This is where you finish up and send me this. This should take what, 5 minutes? I think the longest thing will be to come up with foods if you're gonna do that, but if you want, you could copy these foods here that I input already. And that's it. That's the assignment for today. But I'm gonna go ahead and introduce to you guys how to perform a data validation over some cells before we end the class. Alright, so down here on A12, this is only an example. I'm gonna delete this when I'm done. Let's say this is my schedule for the week in terms of breakfast, and let's say rows 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's say these 5 cells will be representing the 5 days of the week. So for the first day, I'm gonna eat pizza, pancakes on the second day. Now tell me, you guys should see something wrong with this already, right? We're talking about breakfast. Is there any breakfast found in this part of the list? No. No pizza for this breakfast list. So that would be wrong, because again, no pizza is found on this list. But then I still typed in pizza. I still typed in burgers, and that's wrong, because there's probably nowhere, I would think, in Belize that has pizza available 8 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm sure you might could find, but that's not what we usually eat for breakfast, right? And kind of the same for burgers. You might could find it, but that's not what we usually eat in the breakfast time. So how do we remedy this situation? How do we fix it? So I'm gonna delete these. I'm gonna show you how to apply data validation on cell 13. So I'm gonna focus on cell 13 for now. First thing you want to do is select the data tab here. Once you select the data tab, you'll notice a bunch of icons, but you want to come here where it says data tools, and it's a very small icon. This is what we're looking for right here. When you hover your mouse there, it says data validation, and if you read the description, it says pick from a list of rules to limit the type of data that can be entered in a cell. And that's exactly what we're looking for, right? We want a certain amount of data, or a certain type of data, to be entered into this cell. We don't want pizza, we don't want wings, not for breakfast at least, right? Therefore, we'll click on this, and a window pops up, and it gives us a validation criteria. Pretty sure you should be able to access the data settings. You're supposed to click data right up here. If you're using Google Sheets, I had one done already. What I'm gonna do is just delete it, and the data is again same tab right here, data for the sheets, and you should be able to click data validation right here. So let me go back to Excel. So right now our validation criteria are our conditions, because criteria is another word for conditions, is any value. Right now we're allowing any value if you follow where the mouse is at. And that's why I can enter pizza, that's why I could enter anything, even gibberish, and the Excel file won't tell me anything because we have it as any value so far. We're gonna click on this, and you notice we get a bunch of options such as whole number, decimals. So it's not only applied to a list, but if you're doing an Excel file that needs to be numbers only, then you could just put whole numbers. But for today, we're doing a list, so we select list. Additional options pop up, and this one that says source is basically asking us, all right, you want a list, where's the list? Tell me, what's the source that contains the list? So we have our list right here. Therefore, once you click on this field, I want you to click on A2 and don't let go. You click and you keep holding on to the left click button, and you notice it's going to automatically add A2 into our source field. I want you to look at the dollar signs. That's important. Those are called absolute references. But for now, we're not going to really go into the topic of references yet. But I want you to take note of that dollar sign for now. You'll come back and say, all right, I did remember seeing dollar signs one day that we were doing this data validation. So without letting go of the left click on the mouse, you drag, and you notice it updates every time I cover a cell. Go to the end, which is on cell A8, and now you may let go of the left click. So now it's highlighting this because this is our source. We click OK, and then if you notice, a little arrow has appeared here, and if you click that arrow, it gives us all the options that we had selected before. And now we can type in, or not even have to type in, but just select our item or our food that we're gonna eat for breakfast on that day. Now, what happens if I try and type in pizza now? Type in pizza and I press enter. I get an error message that says this value doesn't match the data validation restrictions. So now it's almost impossible to put in the wrong answer. And now you kind of safeguard yourself, and you also help the person who's going to use the file by letting them know that, hey, pick these options. As long as it's one of these options, it's correct. I'm not sure if I got your homework, Kaylin. I'll be checking homework before Easter, and I told you guys by next week Sunday I'm gonna check on those. So for now, be patient. And also, I told you guys in the last video that once you see response has been recorded and you pasted the link to your sheet or your Excel file has been uploaded properly, then that's all you need to know. Alright, stop shouting. So, a couple of advantages of this is obviously, one, it minimizes the margin for error, and two, with a drop down list you can mix and match your schedule every time. So if this was the full schedule and you wanted to alternate between the foods you eat for breakfast for next week, you could go ahead and change up the selections as you go along. So if next week Monday you wanted to eat Johnny Cake, you'd have Johnny Cake. But what if the week after that you don't want to eat Johnny Cake again on the Monday, so you change it up based on whatever schedule you want to follow and whatever meals you want to eat based on the day. So I'm gonna go ahead and apply the same cell validation to these 4 rows here. So it's possible to apply one data validation to multiple cells as well. You don't have to stick to just one. So we're gonna go ahead, once again, data tab, data validation icon is this little one right here. Any value? No, we want a list, and our source is going to be A2 to A8. Click OK, and now each one of these, at least to the 5th cell, should have an arrow. Alright? If you have any questions, go ahead and ask. This part with the data validation down here is not part of the assignment. I'm just showing you guys how to get that done one time. Next week, we're gonna do the actual schedule, alright? We're going to put the days, we're gonna put breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then we're gonna put all the validations based on whether it's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And we're gonna format it to make it look nice, add the borders, add the cell alignments to be centered, make the widths bigger, just like we did with the class schedule, right? We made it look a lot better than it did before. I'm really not sure. Well, what are you using, Augusto? Are you using Sheets or are you using Excel? Because I'm not sure what you're using. So let me just go ahead and show you guys how to do this in Sheets once more. So you pick the cells that you want to apply it on. I'm just gonna do all 5 and click on data, just like with Excel. And the difference here is that instead of icons, you're gonna be choosing data validation out of a menu. This cell range basically is telling us, alright, it's this range here that we're gonna apply the rule on. Criteria already has list for you guys. So we already have list from our range. You don't need to change it, but I want to show you that it has similar settings like Excel. And in here is where we put the source. I already had the source earlier, but I'm going to do it again. So you click in here, and same thing, we click and drag our source. Now make sure you check this box here that says show drop down list. This is what's going to show the arrow so that you can select it, the option from the list. And this part where it says on invalid data, make sure it says reject input. That's exactly what it's doing. If you put a wrong entry, it's gonna reject it and say that that's not correct. For example, again, back with the pizza, and I press enter. Again, it tells me this is not working, this is not right. Alright. However, let me show you guys real quick what happens. Alright, if I show warning instead, notice it's gonna accept it. But now notice the little red flag up there. If you hover over the red flag, it'll tell you that this input must fall within the specified range. So it's not prohibiting you from entering the word pizza, but it's still gonna tell you that that's wrong because of our validations. Yeah, just the table for homework. This this is the online version. This is this spreadsheet. We already did this in Excel, so if you're just joining us, make sure you rewatch the video. I'm not sure what error you're getting, Augusto, so I'm guessing every time you click on the data tab, you get the data settings don't work on my PC. So I'm not sure about that. Make sure that you have the Excel file or the Excel sheet open to cover the entire screen, because sometimes when it's minimized, some options get hidden like this. So make sure that yell at someone. I mean, right now if you were to yell, no one would hear you, but so homework again is just this table here that I highlight. Adjust the width of the rows and columns to make it bigger so that it looks better. Apply a bold style, remember bold, on the first row, and on the subsequent rows below the headers, write out foods that are relative to the header that they're under. So breakfast foods, lunch foods, dinner foods. If you want, you could use this same list. That's no problem. That's it. That's your assignment to post on assignment day 4. You can copy this word for word, or you could make up food as you go along. You decide. Again, Augusto, give me more info. Let me know what's happening in the chat. Maybe I could help you out, but I'm not sure, because you should be able to access data from the Excel just like that. We have 7 foods for each group. So 7 breakfast foods, 7 lunch foods, and 7 dinner foods. This is the assignment for today. Just this. Remember to rename your sheets to call this the food list. And the next sheet we're going to be using next week. And that's our food schedule. Alright? So any more questions, guys? Any more questions before we wrap up? Alright then, go ahead. This is your assignment. If you don't have Excel or are having trouble with the cell phone spreadsheets, like I said, go ahead, write it out, and write the notes that I told you to do. Write down the notes. Even if I said make the width of this wider, write it down. Yeah, Kalon. Well, I'm not sure what crazy is, because I can't see what you're doing. If all else fails with the sheets, always just close it and open a brand new sheet and just do the work over. A lot of these assignments I've been doing isn't hard. In fact, should really only take about maybe 5 minutes, especially today's one. The other 2 assignments before this day should only take about 15 minutes. I guess the important part is to know what you need to do. Alright, for these grades, I think I'll check them, like I said, before Easter. I'm gonna see how many people submitted. I'm gonna see whose grades I can record, and I'll decide basically after the Easter break. When we get back to school, I'll see what we're gonna do with all these assignments. Maybe I'll apply them for missing work. Maybe they could go towards extra credit. Maybe I just grade them as regular grades. We'll see, alright? Just make sure you get them done. Watch the second video on day 2 to check how to change the row height. I covered that already. I'm not gonna cover it again this video, alright? So go ahead, let's save this file. Today's assignment, day 4. Remember, every day we'll have an assignment that's going to accompany the video. And there we go. Alright, make sure you save your file. We'll be using this list in the next class, so make sure you guys have it. If that is all, I'm gonna end the stream here. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Enjoy your weekend. Stay safe and sanitize. Stay home. Alright, later, guys.